going to enter into private teaching. Who we have with us today is a private instructor. His name is Sean Friedman. How can I pronounce your last name right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. We don't run this like a class, just so you know. Pretty informal. Actually, this is our business. We're teaching them the music business, pretty informal business. I let them all call me Micah, except for those two. They call me Mommy. All right? So, what do you prefer for them to call you?
I have a lot
Sean,
of
okay?
nicknames. Yeah, it's fine.
Sean's cool? Okay. This is Sean, everybody. That's Man, Ryan, Misa, Monet, Yanni, and Ari. Ari? It's a class. We have two girls that are missing, Rachel and Ariel. They went to Columbus last time. So, but this is the class. They're learning about the music business, and our focus is business. So we're teaching about all the different careers in the music business. And today, you would be the engineer, you know, and all the different parts of learning about engineering, music, the studio in itself. So as much information as you want to show them, tell them.
Oh yeah, I can tell
And
them about all
sure
the
will.
different areas to work as well as I
Yeah.
go about it.
This is Sean. Feel free to ask him questions, but also listen to him. There's a lot of information. Well, okay? All right.
All right. Well, I grew up in University Heights down the street, and then we moved to Beechwood, so I'm from Cleveland, and pretty much been making music since I was 5 years old. So you already heard about all the music industry jobs, but for music, it's everywhere these days. Video games, ad agencies, films, TV, every time you turn on the radio, every time you turn on the TV, and of course, R&B, hip-hop artists, reggae artists, live guitar, and all the rest of it, but a lot of tangents right there. So I use a program called, you probably heard of it, it's called Fruity Loops. I don't like calling it that because that sounds corny. I actually have to call it FL Studio. And pass her down. So I use a program called FL Studio for most of my projects. And I'm also a signed composer to publishing agreements, which you guys probably learned about. I signed up, and they're going to try to plug my instrumentals into film and TV. And I've also sold instrumentals to a lot of lyricists worldwide. And I teach YouTube tutorials, so I'm very involved with the music. I also drove to Dallas, and I'm a certified audio engineer in Pro Tools. But we'll hop into FL Studio here. So first step of sequencing music is usually the drum beats. So I have a bunch of what you call wave files, but it's pretty much a kick drum, snare, hi-hat, and all your percussion. I'm sure you've heard that a bunch of times. Rock drums and, you know, rap, different type of rap drums. So let me hop in this. Kits. Ninth Wonder. I don't know if you ever heard of Ninth Wonder. There's not a lot of bass in these speakers, but that's a little kick drum right there. Hi-hats. And I got some reverb on there. That's one of the If you ever heard of reverb, it adds like a spatial feel. And this part I'm pretty much going to consider beginning sequencing of a music, starting with the beat. But there are no rules in music production, so you can start with anything you want. This is just going to be the first example. All right, that clap's fine. I have a bunch of samples here, you know. Now, FL Studio makes it very easy for the initial beat process. It's like perfectly in time, so it's very easy for the beat part. All right, speed it up a little bit. Now this is going to loop. So. All these little dots, here's the end part, here's the kick. You just fill in whatever parts you want. And then volume and panning, which is very basic stuff, but this is the most important. This is pretty much, because you're mixing, you have to mix the volume correctly while you're going about all this. Even though this is just sequencing the drums, you're continuously mixing this as you go along. So I can lower that clap, it's too loud. The hi-hat's probably too loud. And then the panning is left and right. And see, hi-hat's over on the left side now. So you gotta create left, right, and volume is crucial. So you just experiment with it. And now as it's playing along, you can preview other sounds and just keep adding them. That's a preview.
What's that?
This right here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to explain that. You probably noticed I was just using a mouse. You literally just need a mouse and you can get everything done. But this is a MIDI controller. The MIDI controller is pretty much it sends signals and then it controls this piano right here. If you can see that, the exact key I'm doing is on there. So after you have your main percussion, you probably want to add instruments. We could add a lot more percussion though. That was a nice congo. See, I was doing that with my mouse actually. And you got to plug it in here. Okay, those are pretty much kick, drums, hi-hat, and then you have effects too. Those are pretty much, that was just pretty much percussion. Next step would probably be instruments. Now, you don't need like a big hardware controller anymore. This is just a controller, it's like a ghost. It doesn't have any sounds inside of it, but it controls computer sounds, which are called virtual instruments. So it's very easy to set up compared to just like 10 years ago when there was none of this. So and that's moving. Same thing again with the MIDI controller, the pads. You've heard about an MPC. When people, when they sample different pads, I mean, this is the exact same thing. This is more than an MPC because you could put samples on every single key, actually, which people don't realize. But it has pads there too. It's the exact same thing. It's just a different trigger. It's a trigger here. So, lower the volume on it so I can mix it in right. So, you like that sound there? You guys can tell me when to stop. I'll just go through. Okay. Keep going. See, this is playing it for me. This is called a arpeggiator. That's just in time. Arpeggiation is in time with the tempo. I don't know why it's doing all those. Okay, now it's a regular sound. You can play like a regular piano now. Doesn't sound real complicated there, but you gotta start somewhere and build it. Now this right here is a piano roll. Same thing with the MIDI controller. It's a piano on its left side. You don't even need this again because you can just use your mouse. Another reason for MIDI controllers to play it in live. I'll show you an example of that soon. I could play this in live and fix it, but so the end is going to be that da-da. There's another harmony right there. So this is still the initial sequencing, pretty much I'll consider it. But this is still, a lot has happened, but it's still really just the initial steps. But it all depends how far you want to take it. I mean, you could just record vocals right now and call it a day, but nothing in life is easy, because we can mix this a lot better. Now, as far as a robot feel, depending on the genre you're going to do, it's like a computer right now. And you've probably heard about MPC swings, different grooves, and when you play live, everyone's in the grooves together. So this is completely a computer robot. So there's tips to avoid that, tricks, and I'm still going to consider this initial sequencing. All right, the hi-hat. Did you hear that? The hi-hat was totally off beat, because I offset the hi-hat further in time by like a little milliseconds. Just a little bit of milliseconds. So, this is a robot hi-hat. beat and it hurts your ears. But the trick is just to do it a tiny bit. So the hi-hat's going to be in tune more, kind of. So I just did it with the hi-hat. I did it very slightly because you only want to add like a tiny bit. Add a little bit of salt. If you're a good engineer, you're a good chef. You don't over salt it. And if that was hard to hear, I mean, you can do individual time offsets. I mean, you heard it probably with Kanye, Wu-Tang. I'll show you right here on the snare. That snare is totally off. If I can bring it. I can just push it a little off, so it's still in time though. And one more example of that. It'll be very easy to hear when I show you this method. Added the snare here, and I'm gonna push it a little forward, but now it's gonna sound like it's a live drummer, because when two drumsticks hit a snare, it's not at the same time. It's a human being. So here we go. Hear that? Now a little off, so move it back. There you go. That's more of a stick like that. And you could do individual ones too. It's called shift. It's called shift. So I can shift each snare hit that's there. That first one I just moved, it's way off. So that just pushes it more. So I keep stressing this beat part, but this is still sequencing, but this is the most important part. You know, this is behind the scenes. You know, when you finally have this in your car on a CD, when someone's listening to it, they don't know why their head is bobbing, but it's because you kind of have to set up the groove a little bit and not make it a robot. Because the beat is your whole backbone, really. So that's kind of a tip and trick there. Now all of these can also go to their own mixer tracks. You've probably heard of that before.
I don't think they have.
Mixer? A mixer? Yeah, right now, I mean, you can do a lot just on the sequencer. Panning and volume, and then each sound you can experiment with too. Just talking about, this is just very fundamental, but it's important. Like this snare, that can go all the way up and down. So I used to do that to find sounds that never existed before, to be unique with it. That's the beat, that's a little harmony with the alien. And next step in sequencing is probably the bass. And we'll get into that as well. You've probably heard of, you've seen low, mid, and high. And that's exactly why I mentioned the mixer. A mixer is where you can fine tune what we're doing here and adjust the low, mid, and high, what they call frequencies. Growl bass, oh, this is some dubstep. crazy stuff. My first FL Studio training lesson was an Asian who wanted to learn dubstep. So I set up this preset for him.
What's dubstep?
That crazy bass, like growling.
You guys know
That's a
what
whole other genre. It's like,
I know what dubstep is.
you know.
I'm talking to them. Do you all
They
know what
They heard on
dubstep is?
YouTube. I bet you they
Everybody
heard.
says, I know what it is.
Yep. But a growl would be like. I don't really do too much dubstep. My niche is actually hip hop instrumentals and urban beats. Here's the sub bass. But these speakers don't have any bass, so it's a little hard. Trying to get a good bass you can actually hear. I'll do this. See, this is actually bass right here. You can't hear these speakers. I'm gonna blow the speaker if I do that. That's like sub bass you hear in your car. These speakers are actually not that great.
See, now you dissing my speakers. I told you I'd bring the one with the sub on it. You didn't want it.
Yep. Yep. But this is actually what they call a sine wave. See, now we're talking about frequency. It's something totally different right here. Just trying to get a bass line, but it's like a whistle sound. But if you go further down, that's sub bass right there. These speakers are terrible. That'll shake your whole car. Just listen. I'm going up an octave. But I guess I can do a bass line with this part of the sub bass. Play that in. You can play that in and fix it later, or let this plug it in yourself. And this is just with a little paintbrush. Dot 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 dot. Then. Okay. All right, bass line is in there, and that is pretty much a basis of your production. Drums, harmonies, and bass. I mean, obviously you can expand on this, but this is the fundamentals. And you can change this into being a whole song, bring in different parts, which I'll show you. What'd you say? You singing the chorus? Or just made it up? See, that's what happens, and then you just record it in there. paste program, which makes it actually easy again. Right now, this is just one pattern still. You probably noticed it's very repetitive, and this is just one pattern. 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5. So this lasts 5 seconds, and then just moves back to 0.
Hey, Sean, I think the Thunder wants to be a part of the song.
The Thunder?
Yeah.
I could bring it. I got a wave sample on that. See, if you want a wave sample, if you want Thunder, you just go on Google, type in Thunder free wave sample. You want a nice bird in the beginning, type in free, type in bird free wave sample. Like a wave, W-A-V-E, but it's a wave file. It's a type of, so anything you want, you can actually just search on Google. So, what is that? Chirp? So to show a quick example with just these parts, I'm just going to say beat. This is where you set up your whole song and your chorus and the whole structure of everything. Chirping is number 2. And bass line I'll say is 3. So pretty much what you do is just copy and paste these patterns to their own individual sections. Bass line, you can rename it whatever you want. And you go to song mode, and you pretty much paste these patterns as long as you want. Your song could be an hour long if you want. So there it goes. No beat, no beat. The beat's gonna come in right there, just put it there. So that's the beginning of an intro. So, as you can see right there, you can use your imagination. This can go on forever. And that's how you build a whole song. Now as far as mixing, still going with sequencing here. So we pretty much built the beat, sequenced the beat. We started a little song. I could take out, well, you heard the intro without the beat there. Or we could even do without the bass line. But not worried about the actual patterns right now. I want to just show you what mixing means real quick. You saw everything on this sequencer thing, where you can build up everything. But real audio engineering now, to get into it, is actually separating each sound on its own individual track. That's just the snare by itself. So when people start mixing, they talk about EQing, which is low, mid, and high. They talk about reverb, and they talk about they call them effects. So A mixer allows you to put more effects, EQ it better, and make it sound more crispy. So just on that snare. It's by itself right now. And this is an example of EQ as far as low, mid, and high. You can see this little curve here. This section's low, this section's middle, this section's high. Pretty simple. You've probably seen the controls before. Low, mid, high. So I'm just messing with the snare. So higher up will be over here. But that's going to start hurting your ear. But if it's cracking like that a little bit, you can keep where it's at, and you can actually you can shape the sounds and how it sounds on the speakers the way you want. But if I liked how it was cracking right there, I just left it right there. And like I said before, I might just go up a tiny bit and give it a little salt shaker again. But you need to hear this in context of the whole song as far as mixing. Would have been better. I mean, it depends. You need to learn to use your ears, but now it's playing together. Here's a snare. I'm moving it now with everything playing. That's good. Right there. So now I lower it back down, and I'm going to raise it up a tiny bit. And that's dealing with frequencies, and that's getting into hardcore engineering.
And that's all available on Fruity Loops?
Yeah, this is everything.
Wow.
This is everything you need to do.
You say your dad uses Fruity Loops?
You do these all
Oh yeah. So EQing, there's a snare. An example is reverb for sure. Here's reverb. Snare. It would be the last one, the fourth one. And you can set that up. I'm just doing it manually right now. Or that just brings suspense, or like before a chorus. There's no rules into what you can do. You can use reverb anywhere you want. And there's delay, and there's other effects. I mean, you could just experiment with this stuff. Flanger. Let's see, and there's presets for it too. You can just scroll through presets like I did with sounds. Now I'm scrolling through an effect. Filter. I just put a filter on the snare, automatic preset. So it's going like, it's pretty much doing some randomized stuff on the snare. That bass line is too much right now. So you got your beat, you got your EQing. Now you can also sample old records and instruments if you wanted to.
How would you sample into your computer?
You can sample with FL Studio yet again.
Just using a mic on your computer?
No, just an MP3 file.
Oh, okay.
Where's songs not shown?
So would you guys like to learn how to do that stuff?
And there's still a couple more steps, including sampling. Sampling would be another way to include it in your beat. Next step is recording outside audio. And that means a whole gang of stuff, actually. You could have a hardware synthesizer record audio into it. Vocals, that's the obviously logical next step. That's the way I do it. Create the whole instrumental, and then you add vocals later. You could mic up a violin, you could mic up an acoustic guitar, you could plug in an electric guitar, you could mic up a whole live drum set.
You guys got any questions for
That's a
Sean?
whole nother conversation. That's live miking up. I mean, you get into, now you're talking about a whole nother people and a whole nother genre in itself.
Hey,
The
Sean,
guitar players.
let them ask you some.
All right, yes, questions. Now, questions, anybody?
Yeah, because we got like 5 more minutes, I'm gonna give them.
All right, yeah, it was pretty much almost wrapping up.
Okay, what else you gotta tell them? You wanna show them?
Sampling, recording vocals, oh yeah, then mastering, getting it loud, that's another topic. If your project isn't, it's a shame, I don't know if you guys are too young to understand this, but people talk about the loud wars now. You obviously understand because you watch a lot of TV and listen to the radio. If your project isn't louder than someone else's, the listener immediately thinks it's worse. And the second you hit play on YouTube, it has to start right on that second, and it has to be loud. So people say it is true though, because the files, and this gets into another conversation, the digital files are compressed. So in your spare time, you have to listen to a vinyl record, and you'll hear the instruments better. But I'm part of the loud wars. If you can't beat them, you have to join them actually. So you heard of compressors. The last step would be raising the volume with the compressor. I just raised it up. That's no compressor. This is it's an effect. When I click this down, it's going to get louder. Just a little bit, but that helps. And then every time, this is still a project in FL Studio, and this is on the same topic of getting louder. You would actually export this whole entire thing. File, export, MP3 file. What's this called? It's called Getting Busy With It. Because, I think of titles all the time. Pretty good titles, just like what just happened, you have to just let it fly. MP3, you can also do a WAV file. MP3, you can send it in an email, upload it to any website in the world. MP3s are easier to send because they're smaller files, and you want to do 192 bit rate or higher. 320 is actually extra high quality. And WAV files deal with 16-bit files and 24-bit files. A lot of information, but this is all crucial because it's actually the final steps. Part of mastering, I'd say. So now it's over here. Now it's a whole different thing. Like, I don't even like looking at. I'll spend a couple hours on FL Studio. The best part is when I burn it on a CD, take it to my car, and start listening. Now you can just hit play. It doesn't want to play. I have to close off with FL Studio. Now it's just going to play in Windows Media Player, and it's just a file now. I'm getting busy with it. It's a regular file. And there it is. I can upload that to YouTube, make a video, and that's it. Any questions? Can you get it? Oh my God, that is a good starting point. You guys want to have a collab on that beat? Did you write the chorus? Oh yeah, and then you have a pen in your pad and you write lyrics to it and then record vocals later. And you can record vocals in any program, you don't need FL Studio. Once you have a file like this, you can open it up in any program, Pro Tools, and your engineer just records your vocals on top of the instrumental. That's what my friend used to do for me. He was an engineer in Atlanta. He recorded like Yellow Wolf and Usher. So he knew what he was doing for me.
So FL Studio.
But FL Studio does everything under one roof. And sampling, which I didn't show you. Sampling is the last topic. But you would see like a waveform, and you have to edit it, copy and paste. I mean, you guys are young enough where you probably get this stuff. You know, copying and pasting, it's the same kind of stuff. But also sampling gets to one of the topic I go over, which is time stretching and setting up to the right tempo again. But that's all part of sampling. I have tutorials on that on YouTube as well.
So they can find you on YouTube? Is it all kid friendly?
Mm-hmm.
Your tutorials.
Kid friendly tutorial? Oh, yeah, they're all kid friendly.
What was the
Any questions for?
What was the for? Is the music not kid friendly?
Some of it, I know it's a mixed bag. It's mostly fine. There's like 200 videos.
Okay.
There's another one of my websites is actually Global Heat Wave. What I mentioned at the beginning of this class about wave samples, I have a whole website called Global Heat Wave, and it says free access to 20,000 wave samples. And it has all the underground kits and mainstream kits, and that's starting to pick up good.
So all that's on your card, right?
No, that's called Global Heat Wave. That's a side project.
So you guys, if you want to write that on the back of this card,
Yeah, you can get free files there.
and where can they find you on YouTube? Your
Sean Friedman, just my name.
you can look up his tutorials.
Or flstudiotraining.com, which is on that card. That pretty much shows exactly what I just described, but it's one-on-one tutoring classes at my apartment. But we're obviously going to have these classes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's enough of that. Oh, and then some sampling, because that was a very basic beat, obviously.
She said Global Heat Wave.
Global Heat Wave. I don't know if you guys know what kind of songs you guys know.
Name a song you got.
Lake of Fire remix. I don't know if you knew Nirvana.
No, they didn't know who TLC was.
I didn't.
Well,
didn't know.
That was that young.
So they don't know who TLC is. They don't know who Nirvana. Well, she represents the class. You're a one. One of you guys don't know it's Ollie.
Any other questions? How about Hand in My Pocket by Alanis Morissette?
Well, you learned something. There you go.
I'm broke, but I'm happy. I'm poor, but I'm kind. I'm short, but I'm healthy. Yeah. I'm high, but I'm grounded.
This is one of the best songwriters. I think she's called Alanis Morissette. Does anybody know who this is? No?
What it all comes down to is that everything's gotta be fine, fine, fine.
One Hand in My Pocket.
'Cause I've got one hand in my pocket and the other one is giving a high five.
Yeah, a little crazy voice, but listen to this intro here. This intro right here. See, I grew up with that song, so it inspired me, but I know I'm an urban beats composer, so I sampled this intro, and I flipped up what her lyrics were talking about, and I performed it. And here's a sample I took, because that was a little loop. I'm about to play it for you. I'm about to play it in Mixtape Volume 1. And I did that in FL Studio. Sample her as well.
I'm broke, but I'm happy. I'm poor, but I'm kind. I'm
This
short,
is
but
all
I'm
FL
healthy.
Studio.
I'm high all the time. I'm sane, but I'm overwhelmed. Lost, but hopeful. Ready to pack my bags, but stay local. What it all comes down to is everything is gonna be fine. Got one hand in my pocket and the other one is giving a high five.
I just changed like what she says a little bit. Like she didn't say monetary slave, I made that up. So that's kind of what I call a lyrical interpretation remix. So I do those just on the side, besides instrumentals, just to get more creative with it.
All right, y'all. Let's say thank you to Sean.
No more questions?
Appreciate it. Give him a hand.
All right.
Thank you. We're gonna take a quick break. You guys get stretched. Then we're gonna pick up